Welcome to the Vedic Astrology full moon forecast for June 5th, 2020. It's a lunar eclipse. The energy is building in a very unique way this cycle because we are in eclipse season. How are you feeling? The moon is waxing, getting brighter and bigger. And on June 5th, 2020, the moon will reach its brightest, become full. It will pass through the shadow of the earth and then begin to wane again. Angry, frustrated, exhausted, anxious. Lunar eclipses are transformative, intense, volatile times. They are often felt weeks, sometimes months before, and can extend in their influence for years in their impact. This lunar eclipse certainly is an exceptional time. This particular lunar eclipse is in an alignment that is very unique, and it's one that I've been looking at for quite some time, actually more than a year, and concerned about, to be honest, because there is a great deal of energy in this lunar eclipse. This lunar eclipse is not total. It's actually penumbral, partial lunar eclipse, but it's still very important, very powerful. And it is peaking between 12:12 p.m. and 12:24 p.m. right in that time period. So it's not visible in the United States or America or South America, but it is visible in Europe, I believe in Africa and Asia, Australia. This eclipse is in the nakshatra, the Vedic lunar mansion, the area of the sky, the star, actually that's close to this lunar eclipse, is called Jyestha, Jyestha nakshatra. Jyestha is a very unique star. It is situated right in the heart of the Scorpion. Its name in Latin, this star is Antares. It's a red giant star that looks a lot like Mars. So in ancient times, they used to call this star the rival of Mars. Being in the heart of the Scorpion, which is ruled classically by Mars, there's a very strong connection to this energy of Mars, who is a warrior. He is battling for freedom, or for his space, for the courage, to stand up for what is right. Jyestha's Shakti, this description of Jyestha's power, is to rise up and overcome. So it is a area of the sky that has to do with defending our rights, for overcoming oppression, for not being boxed in, not being fenced in anymore by the world's beliefs, or pressure on us, and also internal beliefs as well. One of the symbols of Jyestha is the umbrella. The umbrella is a symbol of royalty. Sometimes you see in India the gurus walking with somebody holding an umbrella behind them. It's a symbol of protection, not just for the king or the person who it is held behind, but for all the people who gather around as well. So Jyestha is a star of social issues too, and social justice. Now combine this with the power of Rahu and Ketu right now is quite exceptional. And there's another thing that's happening too with this lunar eclipse. This lunar eclipse is occurring exactly as Mars reaches the midpoint between the sun and the moon. As you know, lunar eclipse only happens on a full moon, and that is when the sun and the moon are opposite one another. But this happens to be occurring right as Mars is exactly making a square aspect to both the sun and the moon, creating a sort of T-square. That's a Western astrological term, but it is a very powerful alignment that magnifies the power of Mars, this Jyestha energy as well, to fight. It's quite explosive and fiery. Now, the power of Rahu always gets stronger during eclipses, as I was saying. Rahu and Ketu both. And Rahu is also known to hold a lot of very old wounds, ancient wounds, especially involving systemic injustice and oppression, how we are evolving. And that's ultimately what Rahu does. He pushes us to evolve and find alternative ways to be with each other. He changes the status quo. And sometimes it can be very violent. There is nothing actually more violent than Rahu. Honestly, Rahu and Ketu can be huge explosions that overturn tables of injustice and overturn heavy energy that only, that needs to be uprooted. Now, Mercury entered Gemini. It's where Rahu's been for the last year and a half. So what happened was the two have come together in the last week. And basically, Mercury is breaking this Kalasarpa yoga because he's passing through the head of the snake and coming out the other side. The first time in many months this has happened. But we have a very volatile energy of Mercury leading now this Kalasarpa yoga in his own sign. Now, what's good about this is Mercury is so strong that he is ultimately giving voice to what has been left silent or unheard. And that is unfortunately been seen in riots, in lashing out in different ways, and a lot of people have been very hurt by this, and this is the danger of Rahu always. But Mercury's power is getting stronger and stronger too as he's moving forward away from Rahu. So we are getting a sort of momentum now of exposure and communication that needed to happen. Connectivity as well, community forming, especially on the grassroots level. That's what Mercury can do. Now, it is not, as you know, Mercury is the god of communication, the planet that controls communication. And so we do have to be careful on the other side of this, that there can be a lot of confusion, there can be a lot of misinformation, like we don't have enough already, but it can actually be worse now. So be very careful with what you read and what you see right now, and how you communicate your feelings as well. Things can get misinterpreted, things can get actually quite warped with Mercury Rahu too, so you need to listen right now. It's really important to just listen and witness and be present with what is, because when Mercury becomes very in the now, in the moment, that's when Mercury's power is actually the most balanced and strong. So being present with any kind of interaction or exchange that you're having, and I would avoid any kind of intense conversations online. I think sometimes that only makes Rahu stronger. The internet is sort of a place where things can get very twisted. But coming into your community, doing especially meditation and maybe finding really practical ways to help others is a great way to channel this energy of the eclipses. It's true, Mercury's on quite a journey, and he will be going retrograde later on this month, and he will be involved with another eclipse that looks quite intense as well. We have actually 2 more eclipses, one on June 20th, and then another on the 4th of July, which happens to be Independence Day for people in the United States. This is actually quite a powerful omen for this country. So there's a lot of potential for changing the standards and really uprooting things that are not working anymore on a political level here in the United States, but also for everyone in the world on a personal level. Also, just a few days before this eclipse, we have Venus, which is retrograde. She's been retrograde since May 13th. Venus will be also joining the sun, going completely combust. So there's another kind of eclipse happening of the heart at this time. I taught a class last month on Venus retrograde, and it included the Venus horoscopes for 12 signs for this whole Venus retrograde cycle that's going to be continuing into June. So if you would like to find out more about that, you can still purchase it. I still have it for purchase, not much longer. The link for that will be below too. So I think it's time to do the tarot reading. Let's just see what the tarot cards have to say about this lunar eclipse coming up in Jyestha Nakshatra. Okay, so the first card that came through is the Emperor. The Emperor is a, card of empowerment, of inner authority, of taking control, taking back control of your life. You know, we are much more powerful than we realize. And the Emperor is the one who sets boundaries and takes responsibility for the decisions we need to make in life. And the Eight of Wands. This is a very fiery reading. There's a lot of fire here, very Mars energy, which makes sense with this powerful Mars square we're having to both the Sun and the Moon, this midpoint Mars. So here we have, actually, it's the Eight of Wands, which has a very mercurial energy too, right? So, yeah, it is an explosion. There is something electric, something chaotic, something terrifying too, in the way we can feel. There is like this sort of anxious magnification of Vata, of Mercury, of the mind, of the messages, of the, like I said, also the misinformation too. But it's a beautiful card because it really does. You see the rainbow. I love. There is saying that there is something that's coming out of this. After the storm, there is a rainbow, right? And there needs to be movement. And you know, Mercury is in Ardra Nakshatra. That's where we've had a lot of eclipses last year too, because that's where Rahu has been. And Ardra is also the god of the storm, the nakshatra of the storm. So yeah, stormy times, but things are moving. There's a quickness to all of this. And then the Four of Wands. Things are going to settle down. There just needs to be sometimes a way to let things just get out in the open so that we can communicate clearly, so we can see what's not been seen. And Four of Wands is a very peaceful card, actually. It's about community and coming together. Okay, take a look. Defend who you are. Come back to yourself. Find your message and spread it far and wide. Find your true power. Know your boundaries. And defend them. Through defending this, through knowing it, through making it clear, a peaceful door is opening where true exchange and love is supported. where true intimacy and connection can thrive. And we can feel protected and held by each other. Okay. Thanks for coming to the Industry Astrology Lunar Eclipse forecast. Just to say again, I offer Vedic Astrology readings and tarot readings online. You can book a session with me below. Also, get on my newsletter. It's free, and I've been doing it for a long time now, every new moon and full moon. And also like this channel. If you do, I appreciate it. And comment. I love to hear your experiences. Share with me, and I will see you soon on this next solar eclipse coming up. Take care out there, okay? And